Welcome to Gamepinions episode 24. I'm your host, Calvin, and today I'm joined, as always, by the man who's always out of bubblegum. TJ, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today because, as some of you may know, E3 2019 concluded today. So that means there's a lot of E3 announcements and various things that we need to discuss. So once again, as we did last week, I skipped the, what are we playing category. I haven't really had too many changes in my gaming schedule. I don't know if you have had any.
Nope, I've been playing the same stuff. Have you had the chance to play any of that Rocket League Ghostbusters mode yet?
I have. I actually played last night with John.
Yeah, how was that?
It was really weird. I didn't really understand the rules that well. I think it was the whole 3 seconds you have to touch it, but it kind of reminded me of that one game mode where you're hitting the ball back and forth, and the last person to touch it, it kind of turns into that team's ball.
Yeah, drop shot is what
That's
you're talking
right,
about.
yeah. So it almost kind of feels like a mix between that and then a really limited rumble mode. So I don't know. It was kind of weird. I think that once you get into it, it's probably a lot of fun, but I just didn't really have a lot of patience for it, and it was just kind of strange.
Yeah, I know you and John get kind of wild when it comes to Rocket League, so it probably would take you guys some time to coordinate how to play that a little bit better. But it goes for everyone right now. So it really is only a limited play mode. For those who don't know what we're talking about, Rocket League has a Radical Summer event going on, and they have a limited time game mode called Ghost Hunt, where you have to take the ball with your teammates and keep it into the goal for more than an instant like it normally is. Pretty interesting. What Cal's saying is it's not all, it takes some getting used to, I think is a good neutral way to say it in its early stages. And again, it is for a limited time only, so you should try it out if you have Rocket League.
Yeah, and it's weird because when you go in there, it has a really different aesthetic to Rocket League.
It's like a haunted aesthetic? Or
yeah, it has
dark?
that horror film, film grain.
Really?
Yeah. So it looks like it's kind of jarring at first. So it kind of takes a little bit to get used to that. And you actually can't get into the goal. It's actually, if you go into the goal, it turns into almost like a jail cell bars, and it blocks you out. So there's actually an area before you get to the goal that is glowing, and it's kind of whirling. It's like a dark energy.
Okay, yeah, that's like the Ghostbusters containment field, whatever they call that in that movie, and that's where you got to keep the ball, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys score at all?
John scored twice, and I scored once. We ended up losing, I think, 5-3.
All right, it's pretty good for your first couple times.
Yeah, with the last goal we scored, the one I got was with 0 seconds left. So
nice.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the game was over at that point. But it was. I don't think you can blow people up either.
Okay, that's different. That's definitely different.
Yeah.
Because they want you to concentrate on teamwork and not taking people out like in normal Rocket League. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I feel like if you could take people out in that game, that would probably be a lot of people's number one objectives, because I mean, if you have an advantage in numbers, you're all kind of combining to keep that ball there.
Yep, I see exactly what you're saying. Yep.
It's like you'll never get it out again.
Right. It'll just become like a war of attrition. I mean, everyone will be going at each other and it'll defeat the purpose of the game mode.
Yeah, so it'll just be, a game of let's blow each other up, and then, we'll score that way.
Yeah,
so,
overtime, 0-0.
Yeah. So it's not really going to work out that well. I also wanted to mention just one thing that me and John did yesterday, and I don't recommend anybody doing this if you play MLB. We were kind of getting a little bit, we weren't really getting bored, but we wanted to try something different. So we went ahead and we changed around all of our MLB players' positions to positions that they don't belong on.
Oh, my God.
And we put position players on the mound. And after the first 2 innings, I think we accumulated 16 errors because they'll just overthrow the ball and they'll drop the ball. So I don't recommend doing that, but it was actually pretty hilarious for the first 10 minutes.
Good tip. And then the innings wouldn't go by, I guess.
Yeah, we actually got disconnected from PSN, and I am so thankful for that because we were completely done with that by the time we got to the 5th inning.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
What was the 'score? I think I was winning.
I think I was winning. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. 2-1. maybe 6-4 at the end.
That's fairly pedestrian, but the errors were in the double digits.
Oh yeah, if someone got on base, you could just keep getting caught in rundowns, and they'd overthrow the ball, and you could just keep going.
Oh my god!
So it was basically just it was basically just like a chance. It's like we kept swapping out our position players to go into to go to the pitcher area, and then once they get tired, we'd put someone else there and put them into a different position.
Wow.
But it was awful. So I don't recommend that. But yeah, I guess we can get into the E3 topics. Starting off, I guess, with Bethesda. That's what I had on here. And when we go through these, I was talking to TJ about this earlier. I feel like it's a little bit redundant to go through and talk about every single announcement and dissect every single thing. So we're mainly going to be talking about like highlights and just kind of give our opinions of, the different things that really stood out to us. I just feel like it makes more sense that way. So I wanted to start off with Bethesda because just in terms of like their press conference, I actually thought it was a pretty awful press conference. They showed a lot of mobile games, which to me are very similar to like the Kinect games from last generation. It's like every time that they'd kind of come on screen, it's like, or they'd show you this really cool trailer. And it's like, oh, wow, this game looks awesome. And then they actually show the gameplay, and it's just some guy sitting on a phone. So it's like, it's pretty bad. But I want to talk about Fallout 76 because they kind of came out and they have apologized for, I guess, the struggles that game had at launch. And if you look at that game at launch, it was one of the most colossal failures of all time. I personally really liked the game. I definitely knew that there was a lot of shortcomings with it. But just in terms of people trying to return the game and not being able to, people getting the wrong messenger bag from the pre-order bonus or from the special edition, and then having to put their name in to get a replacement bag, and then their addresses got leaked, and just a whole bunch of random stuff that shouldn't have ever happened. So they basically dedicated the first few minutes of the presentation to kind of just go over what's going on with the game and that they're happy that you guys are, still around and talking about the fans, that they're still around. And it's pretty cool because they actually went ahead and announced that there's going to be a new mode, because one of the biggest complaints about Fallout 76 was the whole lack of human NPCs in the game. It was all like robots and video recordings, which I actually liked. But it was part of a bigger story, and I think this actually really was all of their plan all along, because even on the early descriptions of the game and like features, they said that eventually all the vaults would be open. And I assumed that was when the people would come out, because Vault 76, you're the first vault to leave and go into the wasteland, essentially. So they're going to be introducing an NPC pack called the Wastelanders. You're going to get to have full quest lines and all that, and that's going to be awesome. I feel like that's going to bring a lot of people back. But they also announced Nuclear Winter, and they elaborated on that more. And it turns out that Nuclear Winter is going to be a Battle Royale mode. And I think that's actually really interesting, because when you look at Fallout 76 and how glitchy the game is and how many issues it has, it in no way, shape, or form does it look like this game should have the capacity to be able to handle that. But apparently people are actually really enjoying it, which I think is, crazy. And it's apparently the only Battle Royale game that features nukes. So you can actually get nuclear codes and use them on the other players, which is pretty cool. And Fallout's map is also a lot more elaborate than a lot of the other Battle Royale maps, because it's not really designed for that first and foremost. So I think it's really cool. There was a lot of skepticism when they first announced this, and as this trial went on, people enjoyed it. But this was at 404discord.com, and this is at Subpar Gap. Fallout 76 is getting Battle Royale. Someone please end me. #Bethesda. So it was definitely getting some skepticism and all that. But it turns out that people have actually been enjoying it. And this is Zero Fox FX. Been really enjoying Fallout 76 since the beta, so I wasn't too sure about them adding Battle Royale. Was actually surprised by how good it is. It's awesome. Try it. It's free. And there's another one on here too. At G27 status, I'll be the first to admit I scoffed at the idea of Fallout 76 Battle Royale. But I'm glad Bethesda trusted their gut. This mode is fun and mostly well done on launch. So I think that is pretty awesome that they actually are trying to right the ship as best as they possibly can. A lot of people just expected them to drop support for this game. So it's really awesome to see that they're continuously trying to make this thing better. And I mean, they really have to at this point because they don't have a lot coming out immediately, especially with Starfield still way off. And of course, the Elder Scrolls that's still really far off. So I thought this was a really good announcement. Now, I know you never played Fallout 76.
Right, I never played it. Or any of the Fallout games.
Or any of the Fallouts. And I also know you don't really like Battle Royale games, as I don't either.
Yeah, it's one of those things where... Remember, like, at the height of Fortnite's craze, like, everyone was playing it?
Yeah.
Like, even, like, our friends' parents were playing it. I made a decision then, like, that's not going to be me. I'll stick to Rocket League. I'll stick to Bloodborne, whatever I was playing at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't want to get started. I don't want to be consumed by it.
Yeah, and I honestly kind of feel that same way. Like, Apex Legends doesn't do anything for me. Fortnite has never done anything for me. I do think it's interesting, though, because with Fallout 76, that's, it's nuclear winter mode. You can actually get attacked by the in-game creatures still. So you still have that aspect of the game. So it maintains a lot of the Fallout vibes to it and a lot of the Fallout enemies.
From the main series games.
Yeah, so you can actually get attacked by a non-player, like, while you're playing the Battle Royale mode. So you have to not only watch out for the other players, but you also have, like Death Claws and all these other monsters in there that can kill you all the same.
Right, so the environment is something you have to watch out for, too.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot more depth than, I guess, the other Battle Royale games.
Well, hopefully there's a lot more challenge.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. And then, of course, players can acquire nuclear codes, and that, affects a wide area of the map. If it's the same as how the actual game works, because the actual game, I don't know do you know anything about Fallout 76?
Nope.
So essentially, like when you play the actual game, a group of players can find, I think, 3 nuclear codes. They're very hard to find, or at least I've never found them. And once they do that, they can pick a location and they can launch the bomb. And when that happens, it basically broadcasts on, I guess, your radio that a nuclear detonation is going to occur, like a bomb has been launched. You can look on your map to find out where it is. If you're in the blast radius, you're dead. I mean, you're going to die unless you get out of that blast radius. But you can actually, if you have a power suit, you can actually go in, or I guess power armor is what they call it in the game. You can go in there, and that's where all the crazy high-leveled monsters spawn. So you can actually go in there and do a raid in the high radiation area. It's really cool. So basically, I think if they added that into the Battle Royale mode, which they did add nukes, I don't know if it spawns monsters, but essentially it's going to make it more difficult to, I guess, win. But I did read a story. It was basically a player got the nuclear codes and they launched a nuke and they ended up killing themselves with the nuke. They got hit by the blast and ended up dying. So I think it's just there's a lot more elements in this that make it, I think, a little bit more silly and interesting. Then, of course, you have kind of like the ragdoll-y physics. If people put like landmines down, you'll hit it and your body will get all blown apart.
Right.
So it's just, stuff like that I think makes it a little bit more fun. It's also a completely different setting than Fallout. I mean, you're in a post-nuclear, apocalypse essentially in this one, which I think is really cool. But I think it's something cool that they added in there. In terms of the other Bethesda announcement, I didn't really they didn't really stand out to me too much. We did have Arcane's Deathloop, which was the creators behind Dishonored. That's their new game. Looked interesting. I watched the trailer for it, but it didn't really do a whole lot for me. But I do like Evil Within 1 and 2. I think they're phenomenal games. So it's definitely, I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I never played the Dishonored game, so I don't really know what to expect from these. I'm thinking of this next game I was going to talk about.
Yeah, our sister really likes the Dishonored games, so I've beaten Dishonored 1.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique experience and started to play Dishonored 2, but I'm not a big first-person person.
Yeah.
You know, I much prefer Metal Gear's third person style itself.
Yeah, I think I do too. I feel like you would like the Evil Within, because it's very like for I guess a third person shooter. It's actually pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Um, and it's that's a third person perspective, because that's actually from this next game that I was gonna talk about, and that was the Ghostwire Tokyo from Tango Gameworks. They're the same creators of Evil Within 1 and 2. So I'm assuming that game's going to be a third person game. But they make like really high quality games. I loved the first Evil Within, and I was playing Evil Within 2 on the channel actually. I still have videos that I haven't uploaded from that, but they just have really good stories to them, and it's like really challenging gameplay that you just usually don't associate to those games, like those type of third person, I guess, horror games. But I guess Resident Evil was kind of difficult for its time too. The next game was Doom Eternal. Have you ever played the Doom that came out on like the PS4 and Xbox One and Switch and PC?
No, but I people really like that game. So this Doom Eternal, was it like a sequel or like DLC or what?
I think it's a full blown sequel.
Okay.
The first game was really good. Like it's like really really smooth. It's fast paced. It's something to play if you just want to have like fun. It's similar. It's not really similar to Killing Floor, but I kind of compare it to that in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's completely different style of gameplay, but it's just satisfying and fun and very fast paced, and the level designs are, it really works well with the combat, and everything just kind of flows. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, just kind of like a simple shoot 'em up, but it's satisfying at the same time.
And
it
it's
keeps you want to keep playing and all that.
Yeah. And it is like super smooth. I don't know how many frames per second it runs, but it is like one of the smoothest games that you'll ever play.
And on a console too to boot, so that's cool.
Yeah. It's really fun. I really like that a lot. The next one's Wolfenstein Youngblood. Not really a fan of the Wolfenstein games. I'm sure I'd like them if I played them. I do think it's interesting though that both of these games, Wolfenstein Youngblood and I don't know why I'm so hooked on the Tango game, and Doom Eternal are both going to be releasing on Switch as well. So that's pretty cool. But Wolfenstein Youngblood, I mean, it looks fun. I just don't really know a whole bunch about the Wolfenstein games, so that's really all I got on that. And then I guess we can go to Ubisoft. And Ubisoft, they had Watch Dogs 2. I honestly did not watch any of the Ubisoft press conference, so I don't really know what else they showed. I just know they showed off Watch Dogs, and I think they showed off maybe a trailer for like the Netflix series of The Division. So I guess that's cool. But do you have anything on Ubisoft?
They, I guess they showed off that roller skating game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't watch the trailer for it. I just, read about it. Just a one-off game. It's kind of an original concept, I suppose. I don't know if it has any similarities to like Tony Hawk or anything like that. So that's definitely different, I guess.
Yeah.
Competing against each other, I think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not super crazy about that, but I'm glad people are trying new things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, personally, I don't really watch, or I mean, I don't really play a lot of Ubisoft games. I think the only one that I really play a lot of would be The Division 2. Anything besides that, though, I don't know, for whatever reason, I just haven't really been picking up Ubisoft's games. I know they have like, I guess like the Splinter Cell games and
Rainbow Six. Is
Rainbow
that Ubisoft?
Six, yeah. They have those games. Did they show off a new Rainbow Six?
They did something in 2020 coming out. I guess another shooter, co-op shooter.
Okay.
That has horror game parts to it. So, yeah. So maybe that should be cool, I guess. Whatever. I guess that Rainbow Six Siege is a really popular game. So.
That's right. Yeah, everyone loves those. Or everyone that plays them loves them. it just, I don't know, it kind of falls out of my scope there. I just don't really zero in on those games too much. I kind of have like the games that I play, and then I'll go and be adventurous. Like Division 2, I didn't even know what the gameplay looked like when I picked it up. I mean, I don't really look into those games that much, and I actually really like the Division 2 a lot. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for Ubisoft, honestly. I mean, if they released like a new Red Steel game, I'd probably lose my crap about it, but besides that, that's probably about it.
Yeah, we don't really play too many of their games.
The next one would be EA. EA, of course, they had their sports games, which was, pretty typical of them. Nothing really amazing. Patrick Mahomes is going to be on the cover of Madden. Not really super exciting. But they did show off Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I actually heard some people that have seen the game, and I watched the trailer too. I honestly thought it looked really good. People said it looked like Sekiro with lightsabers in terms of like the stance and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I saw was kind of like the Titanfall wall jumping thing.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
Who does make Titanfall? That's not an EA game, is it?
No, it's an EA game.
Okay, so I guess they took that wall jumping from there. I don't know when that first started, but that wall running thing looked pretty neat.
Yeah, it looks like they did kind of incorporate that. And the lightsaber play looks like it works really, really good. Like there's a scene where he's kind of just walking up to like these stormtroopers and they're shooting him, and he's basically just like, reflecting their blaster fire, and it's going back and hitting them, and it's just killing them like instantly. There's also a scene where they're shooting a laser at him, and he stops the laser in the air like Kylo Ren style.
I've seen that. Yep.
Which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I think the stormtrooper fires the shot, and the character you play as slows time down, takes the stormtrooper that fires the shot, moves it in front of the blast, and the blast kills the stormtrooper.
It's pretty awesome.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a lot of different Force abilities in it. And if it's anything like Star Wars Episode 3, the game, I think I'm going to probably like it. It seems like a lot of people have been saying that this looks like the Star Wars game they've been waiting for since KOTOR. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, Respawn Entertainment is a really good studio. The Titanfall games have some of the best gameplay mechanics and shooting mechanics of like any game, and I think they're highly underrated for what they do. So I think this game's going to be really awesome. And I'm always down for a new good Star Wars game for sure.
People have been wanting a new Jedi Academy game. That's kind of renowned for. Those games are renowned for their lightsaber combat. I don't know if they'll get that here. I'm pretty sure when you do PvP and maybe even PvE in that game, your lightsaber kills in one hit. That's probably the most realistic way to do it. At least from what I can remember, that's how it works. So you'll probably have to chip people's health down with the lightsaber, so it won't be completely accurate. But looks like it'll be fun. You move around with you've got a lot of control of the environment. You jump to high places and climb high places and things like that. So it'll probably give you a good sensation of feeling like you're actually a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that, and that was mainly the big E3 game that stuck out to me, because you combine Star Wars with video games, and excluding the original, or I guess EA's original Battlefront, it's usually a good thing when you combine those two things. The next company we're going to talk about, Square Enix, they showed off the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which honestly looked phenomenal.
I have no interest in Final Fantasy because we just didn't grow up with it. But I wanted to check it out. I'd seen the thumbnail to the video, to the trailer. I'm like, that looks pretty good. Let's dig into this, see what we got. And sure enough, I recognize that the music from Smash Brothers. That I saw it. Oh, that's pretty cool. And obviously, the thing looks amazing.
Yeah.
That's what really stood out to me. I'm like, holy crap, this is like Battlefront 2 levels of graphics, at least in the trailer. And our sister says this is, it really just showcased one area from the original game. So she's hoping, and I think a lot of people are hoping it's more than just what they showcased. I'm sure it will be, but
oh yeah, I'm sure.
A lot of dark features in what we saw. So hopefully, more illuminated areas are just as graphically pleasing as the dark visions we saw. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in that game, but I mean, it really is captivating watching that trailer and listening to the voice actors. And when you compare side by side what it used to look like,
oh yeah, it's
it
crazy.
kind of goes without saying. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable how far technology has come.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much echo your thought there. I don't really have a lot of interest in Final Fantasy, but you can just definitely tell, especially when you like read about them developing the remake. They were having, I'm pretty sure they had some kind of development issues halfway through. There was rumors that they had to start over from scratch. If that was the case, this final product looks like it was definitely worth that because it looks incredible. Like, and when you do compare the side by side to what it used to look like, it's almost mind blowing, just how different and how far along we are now. So, I know there's a lot of Final Fantasy. I'm losing my voice here. I'm starting to sound Southern. I know there's a lot of Final Fantasy fans out there that are really excited about this. And I'm happy for them because this was kind of a long-awaited reward here that's going to be coming out, I believe, March of 2020. So there's still a little bit to wait on that. But a lot of people, including our sister, said that she's surprised it's coming out then. She was expecting a much longer wait.
Hasn't it been 3 years since they first announced it?
It's been something like that. I'm not really sure like how long it's been, but it's been a while.
I think it's based on what we saw. It probably will be worth the wait to a lot of these people who have been looking forward to this. One of the things that kind of stood out to me in this trailer, like when he swings that Buster sword, like even just watching it without even the buttons underneath my thumbs, I could feel like the weight of the sword, making that letter, when he cuts the letter in space.
Yeah.
The Japanese text in space. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, you really feel just by looking at it, the weight of that sword and how they just kind of slow it down to start and it kind of, finishes fast. It kind of reminds me of Smash Brothers, Smash 4 when they brought him over to Smash 4, Cloud. A lot of those moves, have a lot of there's a big swing, with his front smash and his tilts and stuff. You can really feel the weight of that sword in your hands. So it was kind of interesting to see then this new, graphically pleasing iteration of the older game that comes back. It's still there. I mean, you really feel like he's swinging something really heavy. It's just satisfying to look at.
Yeah, I think that. One of the best parts about this game is that I feel like it not only appeals to Final Fantasy fans, but it's also going to bring in people that I feel like, previous to this didn't really care too much about the series just because like the aesthetic of it and just how, people know Cloud from Smash Bros. Now. I think it's going to introduce a lot more fans to the, to the series. And I think this is going to be a really good entry point to people that have never played, probably including ourselves. If we ended up wanting to get this game.
Everyone knows about Final Fantasy. People have heard that game before, and I think they associate it with turn-based combat and kind of a convoluted story. And I think a lot of people who know about Final Fantasy, number 7 is their favorite. So it'll definitely catch your eye if you've never kind of looked more into what it actually is before, like it did us.
Yeah.
Turn-based combat does not appeal to me, but the way this looked and what they were doing in the trailer was really quite something. It's something I didn't expect it to look like, other than what very limited experience I've had with playing as Cloud in other games like Smash Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that's going to be awesome. I'm happy for everyone that is going to finally be able to get to play that game. The next thing that stuck out to me was Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 was actually one of the games, or the predecessor to that, the original Dying Light, was one of the games I got to review for a website. like a while back. It was probably close to when the PlayStation first came out. And I love that game. It was, awesome. It was kind of like Mirror's Edge mixed with like, a horror survival game, and the controls worked really well. Very fast-paced game, and it was a very awesome concept. Like, you could kind of do your thing during the day, but as soon as nighttime came about, things just got absolutely crazy, and you would get tracked down by, I think they were called the Nightmares. So I love that game a lot. This game looks like more, but it looks like it's improved. Obviously, the graphics look a lot better, and Dying Light was a beautiful game when it came out, but it just looks even better now. And I'm really excited about that game. I think that's a game that a lot of people that haven't had a chance to play yet. I definitely think that it's worth picking it up. You can probably get Dying Light pretty cheap now, and I think it's definitely worth a playthrough because it's really a phenomenal game. Like it's a really well crafted game, and man, I really love that game a lot. It was really good. Awesome multiplayer features too. I hope they expand upon that in the second game. But that's going to be a really good one. This next game that I had was the Octopath Traveler is coming to PC. That game was originally a Switch exclusive, so I'm happy that people on PC are now going to get to play it because that game is actually really awesome. I don't know if you've seen that game at all.
No, that's just like a top-down like a turn-based RPG, something like that.
Yeah, it's basically that, but essentially you have like I think 7. Oh yeah, that would make sense. It would be 8 different storylines because there's 8 different characters. So when you play with one character, you play like an entire full-length game of that character's storyline. But then after you're done beating that, you can go to a different character and play through all their storyline. So it has a ton of content to it. The stories that I played through were really good. Like they just were really well done, very engaging. The mechanics are very good. The art style, a lot of people were bashing the art style, but it's almost like an
8-bit type motif.
It's almost like I'd say kind of like a 16-bit, but it has like HD looking like textures.
Okay, so it's got a unique look to it.
Yeah, and I guess like people kind of complain because I guess a lot of games kind of have that similar look. I personally like it.
Okay.
Like that was one of the biggest draws for me, honestly. So, really good game. If you haven't checked that game out yet because you didn't have a Switch, but you do have a PC, honestly, I'd recommend it because it's definitely a good play. The next game that stuck out to me, and this is the final game, The Avengers. What did you think of The Avengers?
Goodness, everyone likes The Avengers, right? I mean, just had Endgame come out about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. So I'm like, Avengers on a video game. Wow, great, super. I turn this trailer on, and right away, you're greeted with like Black Widow, who doesn't look quite like herself, and these characters look so plain. And I think they actually I think Thor looks fatter than like a regular Thor. Like they're actually using some Endgame visuals there. But I guess he's dressed like he normal is. I don't know. He just appeared to me very kind of heavy. But anyway, it looks really plain, kind of boring, a little pedestrian. I don't blame them for not getting the likeness of the stars we know and love, Robert Downey Jr., etc., because that's really expensive. But damn, I mean, this is just so... vanilla. I just could not. I watched the whole thing, but I just kind of felt like, this is it. This is the Avengers. Obviously, they're not using the music either. They don't have the Avengers theme.
Yeah, it kind of hurt too, in my opinion.
I'm like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
it's like an indie game. Actually, that's actually insulting indie games. It just looks bland. Nothing too special about it. Nothing that popped out. Nothing that makes you want to play it.
Yeah. I will say I didn't think the trailer looked that great either. But I will say that when the Spider-Man game, like Insomniac Spider-Man, started having its trailers and stuff, I was really skeptical about it, and I kind of thought it looked like majorly underwhelming. Obviously, it looked amazing graphically, but I thought it was going to be very generic with just generic enemies and all that. But when I actually played it, it was amazing. It's one of my favorite games of all time, like hands down. So I wonder if this is going to have the same effect, but I don't know. Then again, I also think the Spider-Man like storylines and villains and all that, I feel like they're not really overly utilized, and they're not overused. Where I feel like at this point, the Avengers is kind of, I mean, it's over. Like at least the main line that we are used to with, like, the main characters, Tony Stark, Thor, all those guys. Like that one's kind of over now. And then you're seeing them come back in a video game, but it doesn't look like them. Personally, I don't think there could ever be another Iron Man. I feel like Robert Downey Jr., I mean, he's Iron Man.
I mean, these guys kind of look like the original people, but just,
They look like knockoff versions. I mean, it's like the episode of Seinfeld when they're like, there's like Melman and the other people.
That's right. The Bizarro crew. This is like the Bizarro Avengers.
Yeah, it's like
everyone looks just slightly off.
Yeah, and I don't really like that.
But like you're saying, Spider-Man looked, kind of pedestrian in its trailers. And when you play it, it's like, oh, wow, this is a lot of fun. Now, the thing about Spider-Man, I mean, Spider-Man has so many different uniforms that look very close to each other. It can still keep you engaged. I think that these characters look so odd, you may lose them, may lose interest. But then again, how many hours do you spend making your Skyrim character or your Dark Souls character only to, like, never see their face? You always see the back of their head. So if you're playing as these people, maybe that won't be a factor. And I'm not saying the voice actors, I think, are fairly well known. Not well enough that I remember all their names, but I think they're actually fairly talented people. So it may be wise, even though I've kind of bashed it so far, to maybe not judge a book by its cover. The game can still be fun and not look all that right. I mean, there's a lot of games that were made in the 90s and early 2000s that don't look anything like what they're based off of, especially movie and video movie games, licensed games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there could be a lot of, on the surface stuff that doesn't look quite appealing, but when you get to it, it may be kind of fun. So, jury's out on this one right now.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Troy Baker was voicing Tony Stark.
That sounds familiar. Like I said, I probably could look it up real quick, but I don't, these voice actors are supposedly very good.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I partially think that I don't like it because I'm just so used to how the characters are in like the movies. So maybe that's part of the reason why I feel a little bit skeptical and why it's not sitting well with me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. Where with Spider-Man, I actually really like the Peter Parker in that. I think that's actually the best Peter Parker out of all the Peter Parkers.
Really? So he's got like a good voice actor and just kind of, okay.
Oh, I think he's excellent. And I think, but also though, if you think about it, there's never really been, besides Tobey Maguire, there's never really been an established, like, Spider-Man. So we're so used to change all the time that it didn't really bother me having a different Peter Parker because they're all different anyway.
Yeah, it's like 4 Peter Parkers in the last 10 years or something.
Yeah, so it's like,
years maybe.
And we've only known one Iron Man.
Yeah, for the past decade.
Yeah. And really one Thor and one Black Widow and
we associate those characters with those actors. Where Spider-Man, he's more and what's the difference between Iron Man? I was gonna say that Spider-Man is known with his mask on. Black Widow, Thor, the Hulk, Tony Stark to an extent, Captain America. We see their faces.
Yeah,
like I said, Tony Stark to an extent. Peter Parker, you don't fight as Spider-Man with the mask off. I guess typically, I haven't played the Spider-Man game, but so that's why it's more palatable to get into a Spider-Man game when he looks just familiar as he ever has.
Yeah.
And voice actor is always going to be a young guy, so it kind of just melds well with what you're familiar with. Where these people who sound completely different and look completely different, it is more jarring.
Yeah,
and may keep people away. Despite it may wind up being a good game. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like subconsciously that's part of the reason why I'm so skeptical about it.
Well, it looks cheap, right? I mean, if you had all the expensive actors in there, like, oh man, they went hardcore to this game.
Yeah.
Who knows? They had to weigh, if we go cheap on the likeness of how these people look or don't look like their actors were essentially basing them off of, versus we pay all these people and the game doesn't sell well. I guess they're going with the safer option.
Yeah. Now, would you be as skeptical if, say, just hypothetically, that all these Avengers movies and all these, Marvel, Capcom, or not Capcom, Marvel Universe movies didn't exist, and this game was just like the first Avengers thing to come up? Do you think you would be as skeptical?
I mean, I wouldn't even give this the time of day. The Avengers are popular because of the first Iron Man and all the movies that followed it, and all the tremendous acting and spectacles those movies have delivered. That's why this game is being made. So, no, if this was like the first thing coming out in 2019, ooh, an Avengers game, wow. Nobody cared about these guys until the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Sans Spider-Man, who has been popular for a very, very long time. All those people at Marvel are the reason for the popularity of these characters. A game would not have enticed anybody.
Yeah, so I guess those characters made this type of game even possible. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens when it comes out. I just feel very uneasy about it. I don't know if that's going to change. Like, I don't know personally if I can get over, even if the game is amazing, I just don't know if I can get over the characters looking different and not looking like how they look in the movies. I just don't know if I could do it. I mean, that's how I'm wired.
I mean, if the reviews come in and they give it a 10 out of 10, this game's amazing, I'll be like, oh, okay. Probably still won't play it.
Yeah.
But I'll be more likely to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess me too. But that was all I had for Square Enix. So a lot of people said that they had the best show of E3. I thought they did a lot of good things. So I definitely think they're up there for sure.
I think they met expectations at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the next company we're going to talk about is Microsoft, who I thought going into the show was going to have the best E3 press conference, and honestly, I think in terms of showmanship, I think they definitely did. I guess I'll start off with Cyberpunk 2077, and basically they showed off CD Projekt Red's brand new game. And it looks pretty awesome. You're like kind of like a cyborg type character. It seems like your arms can turn into like, these big blades, but it's also going to be a first person shooter. Instantly I'm thinking about, your ability to fire a gun, but then also kind of have like your arms do some crazy stuff in terms of attacks and just all that good stuff. And I guess the biggest surprise of the trailer was Keanu Reeves.
Right. Keanu Reeves, yep.
Yeah, so he ended up being in the trailer for it. He had a character.
Cameo, yeah, he makes a cameo in the trailer. And
yeah.
He actually, I don't know if he shows, I guess I didn't watch the whole presentation, but I guess he shows up after the trailer or right before it or whatever, so people are losing their minds.
Yeah, so he actually, the door opened up and there was just a huge, puff of smoke, and he was just walking out. And, the crowd went absolutely crazy.
I mean, he's a popular guy, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty interested to see what he does for this game.
Yeah, it seems like he's going to play a pretty major role in the story. His character looked awesome. He seems like a really cool guy. It seemed like he was really hyped up about it. He's talking about how they approached him and all that to make this game, and he said he's always interested in good stories, and it just seems really awesome. I feel like, obviously this is a game that can be played across, all these different platforms, excluding Switch probably. But, the fact that Microsoft is able to get them on stage, and who knows, maybe if Sony went to this year's conference, maybe they would have went on their stage. I don't know. But it's definitely good on Microsoft in terms of showmanship to have stuff like this that fans get really excited for, because that's kind of part of E3. It's being flashy and it's being, it's really playing to the crowd and playing to your target audience. So I thought that was a really good move on their part.
I mean, he's a great choice. I mean, he's a subject of a lot of memes, but in all seriousness, he's really applauded to be a kind of like a really nice guy, kind of lonely guy, but just a genuine person. And I guess the CD Project Red recognizes this, and so they decided to bring him in to do this game. This guy isn't even the best actor, but he's such a good person, and they know how popular he is. So it's kind of cool that they CD kind of pays attention to that stuff. So
yeah, I thought that was a really good move on both their parts, and that honestly kind of set the tone for that conference. I feel like that's mainly what people were talking about at the end of Microsoft's conference, the fact that Reeves was there. So
it's just cool, in the trailer, he's in the sunglasses. You're not really sure who it is yet.
Oh,
he
yeah.
pulls it off. It's Keanu Reeves. Like, oh my God, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely really cool. And then of course you have Gears 5, which I guess there was a trailer for that. That was kind of where I kind of stepped out for a little bit, so I didn't get to see that trailer. I heard that it looks like Gears, so I guess that's good. I was never really a Gears person just because we didn't really have an Xbox. I mean, we have a 360, but we didn't really get it until I guess after the Xbox One came out. So we're not really big Xbox players. So that was one of the games that I didn't really get a chance to look at. And then besides that, you had, which, I'm sure you're really excited about this one, Elden Ring. They showed that off.
My only hope is that it's not a Microsoft exclusive. It kind of scares me a little bit.
I don't think it's going to be. I think that I feel like because they weren't having their own conference, it wasn't worth it in terms of, the cost of the venue and all that. They were just going to kind of bunk in with Microsoft. Microsoft was trying to get as many companies as possible to get on board with them.
With their big Xbox lettering in the back of the stage, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Sense.
And, PlayStation, Sony, they're taking the year off because they're planning their PlayStation 5 and they really don't have anything to show. I mean, what's available for PlayStation 4 is going to be it. So they're going to be preparing next year for PlayStation 5. So this is a good opportunity for Microsoft to kind of, get these third parties in here. So when you think of those games, you're thinking Xbox. So it's pretty cool. Because you're a big From Software fan. What did you think of this concept of having George R.R. Martin, kind of collaborate here and make this game?
Well, George Martin. Well, I mean, even Miyazaki's a pretty good storyteller. I mean, his stories in his games are ridiculous, but it's almost like a dream. These two, I guess you'd call them geniuses, coming together and just happen to collaborate on these games I've really played quite a bit of this past year. So it's almost unbelievable that they would come together and make a game like this. And I imagine, just like Sekiro, it's not exactly like Souls or Bloodborne, but there's a lot of similarities with it, locking on the enemies, kind of being crappy at the game to start with, and then getting better as the game goes on. And obviously, Game of Thrones, probably my favorite show of all time, at least most of it anyway. Penned by, inspired by George R. Martin's books, Song of Ice and Fire. I watched the trailer and it's just, it looks ridiculously cool. This I guess this lady or this centurion, whatever you want to call her or call it, putting on this prosthetic arm kind of reminds me of Sekiro in a bit, a little bit. And hearing that clang of the hammer, very Lord of the Ringsy.
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't think I've read the Silmarillion front to back, just parts of it, what it entails. That's kind of like a legendarium for J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, kind of the ancient world of Lord of the Rings.
Shame he's not still alive to collaborate.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Imagine all three of those on a game would be unbelievable.
Oh God!
But I think it was just when that in the trailer when the guy's banging on the anvil, I guess he's either forging a ring, he's forging something. It just kind of just watching that reminds me of the Silmarillion, where I think that's where they talk about how Sauron really learned how to. He got really good at making things out of metal, out of forging things. All the rings and so forth.
Yeah.
I think he made all of them, including the One Ring. So that's why, obviously, the title of the game is going to be Elden Ring. That's all I could think about. The music and the sounds that are playing there is just really very striking, like boom, boom, boom on the ring. It's just really, or whatever or whatever that character was clanging there. So it's really striking. Very little was revealed about it, but it's like I said, it's like a dream having these two people who I really like coming together and make something that I'm sure will just be absolutely fantastic. That's definitely a game I'll be getting at launch. Just so even the worst game in the series, Dark Souls 2, there's still some good things about it that he helped supervise. It's like these guys can't do any wrong. I can't wait.
Yeah, it seems like a match made in heaven for sure. I was looking at like some of the features, and at Val Vados on Twitter said that this is just some of the, I guess, included features or things about the game. It says there's supposed to be more focus on RPG elements. Development started after Dark Souls 3 DLC. It's supposed to be a challenging game. I mean, that's kind of goes in the territory for him. Character customization. George R.R. Martin wrote the overarching mythos for the world, and it's supposed to be an open world adventure, which is going to be cool.
This will be Miyazaki's first open world adventure, as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be really, really awesome. And then at Munching Orange said, I've never wanted to buy something so bad just because of the names involved, but this is a match made in heaven or hell. Either way, I'm hyped.
Right. That's crazy. I didn't know they made it right after the DLC for Dark Souls 3, which is some of the most amazing gameplay ever. Madir, Gale, etc. So, I mean, just that level of quality, and to know that started right after that is very inspiring. It's already exciting, but it's just, I agree with that guy who you just read that from. Souls, Miyazaki, Martin, Game of Thrones. It's just good thing after good thing. Elden Ring sounds just like Lord of the Rings, another just masterpiece of literature. Just unbelievable. The expectations I have for that game are astronomical, probably more than any video game ever.
Yeah,
maybe other than Sonic Mania, but this is really taking things to the next level.
That's the thing. I mean, with these two working on it, it's like, how can this game not be amazing? Like that's pretty much the common consensus. Like, this is like penciled in, or really just penned in as, a masterpiece already before it's even, anything shown about it.
Right. It's like the Brady Belichick, just winning combination.
Yeah.
Of video game making. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, that's really awesome. The next thing we're gonna have, and this is the last thing. It's kind of a combination. I think some people are upset about this. Halo Infinite was fully revealed now with the trailer. It looked awesome. They were on like this, I guess, this ship that was attacked and its powers going down, almost like Endgame-esque in the beginning. Spoilers. I probably should have said that first. I'm sure if you guys haven't seen that yet, you're living under a rock. But it's kind of like, it has like kind of that vibe to it where I guess this like, captain of the ship, or maybe just a pilot of the ship, is kind of stuck, can't really go anywhere. And then basically he hears like this communication come across saying that I guess a suit was detected or something like that, or a life form was detected, and it turns out to be Chief. And so he discovers Chief, and he basically hooks up all the rest of the power to the ship in order to, I guess, override the, survival mode on Chief's uniform or suit, because he was, in critical condition. And he was able to restart him, and, basically it ends with them getting attacked again, and then Chief going out and facing the bad people. It looks awesome, but people are a little bit upset about it because this is going to be a launch game for Microsoft's brand new console, which is being codenamed Project Scarlet. So Project Scarlet is going to be their new console. It's coming out the holidays of 2020, and it's said to be, I think, like over 4 times stronger than the Xbox One X, and it's going to have like 120 frames per second for its games and a whole bunch of other crazy features. But they didn't really show it off, and they didn't really show any gameplay from it except for, I guess, that Halo trailer. So that was actually kind of a surprise for me, because I thought that Microsoft was going to come in here and really focus heavily on the next generation because Sony's not here. I thought they'd want to kind of get, a leg up in the race here, but apparently they, just kind of showed off that little teaser, developer or, manufacturer interviews with some people, and that was pretty much it. So that was pretty much all we really know about it. So that was kind of disappointing to me, but I think all in all, though, I think Microsoft did a very good job showing off a lot of games and getting the crowd hyped and having really great showmanship. You can definitely tell the difference between a Phil Spencer run E3 as opposed to Don Matrick, who, was really not very inspiring at all. So it was, I thought it was really good. But yeah, so those are the standouts for the Microsoft conference. This next one, though, is definitely my favorite, and that is Nintendo, the Nintendo Direct. So they kind of hit a checkbox here. They included a Doug Bowser joke in relation to Bowser. I think everybody called that. I should have put that on my predictions last week, actually. That should have been, the top of my predictions list. But I think Nintendo had a very strong Direct. I think this is probably one of their strongest ones in recent years. And they started off the show with Luigi's Mansion 3, which I thought was very interesting. The 3DS Luigi's Mansion 2 was very good. Great level design, great in-game physics, which is really cool. Really strong gameplay mechanics. Of course, Luigi's signature, hey, that everyone that you played online with would say. I hope they bring that back. It was just a cluster. They also incorporated a new feature in this where it's Gooigi. So you have like a Goo clone, which apparently Nintendo confirmed that Gooigi is made out of edible material. I don't know why people were curious about that. But
Luigi can eat him in the game?
No, I don't think he can eat him. I think they were talking about, like, in real life, you would hypothetically be able to eat Gooigi.
Okay.
I
don't understand that.
I don't really know why that's a thing. But you that is really strange. I don't really know why they said that. But you can go through, like, barred off areas. You can, like, kind of, like, meld through those. You can go through, like, you can walk over spikes with Gooigi because the spikes just kind of, stick him and he doesn't get damaged. You can just solve different puzzles that normal Luigi can't get to. But then they also showed that Gooigi and water don't mix. If he touches water, he dissolves. And that's that. So it has, like, some interesting gameplay mechanic there. Apparently, if you have if you split the Joy-Cons, into two, so one person has a Joy-Con and the other one has the other, you can actually control both of them separate, which is kind of cool. So it has, like, a local multiplayer co-op type mode. They did show off some more online features, where it seems like they have, like, a couple different game modes, which actually look pretty fun. The 3DS version of Luigi's Mansion didn't really work that well online, in my opinion. This one looked like it was a little bit more refined, which I thought was pretty cool. Have you ever played any of the Luigi's Mansions?
Never. Only if you count Mario Kart DS when you play Luigi Mansion track.
I actually love that track. That was a good track.
Yeah, the music's good too.
Yeah, had, like, all that mud. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, I remember the mud. Yep. very kind of slippery, and you had to I guess there's things like rotating around the trees, and you couldn't hit them or something like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that was a really good track. And then you have the poltergust or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, that was the cart you drive in that game.
Yeah, I use that all the time. So that was really cool. The fact that I guess they turned it into a vehicle.
Yeah, cart. Yeah.
So I guess he has this new game. He has new attachments and stuff, and there's new features, and there's new you can suck the ghost in and smack him on the ground and stuff. So it looks really entertaining. I just remember Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS, graphically speaking, might be the best looking 3DS game. It worked with 3D really, really well. The lighting was amazing. The detail, there's and I mentioned physics earlier. I mean, you could blow your vacuum and things would kind of feel like that breeze from it. So it was really cool. The next game I wanted to talk about though was The Witcher 3. That was one of my predictions last week, that it was going to be coming to Switch. And despite CD Projekt Red continuously denying that was going to be something that happened, it actually is going to Switch.
Yeah, and all I've paid attention to this past week, well, not the only thing I've paid attention to, I keep seeing these memes of what this is going to look like. Just a pixelated mess.
Yeah, I've been seeing that too.
How is this going to work? How the hell is this going to work?
Well, apparently they released official screenshots of it, and it doesn't look bad. It's going to be running at 540p in handheld mode, and then some weird resolution in docked mode.
Yeah.
But it seems like the game though is intact. There's some ridiculous screenshots going around that people I think went to their PC and then drew it in Paint or something. But it's from what CD Projekt Red shared on Twitter earlier, it seems like you can definitely tell there's less detail, but it's not to the extent that that people are showing.
You've spoken. You've talked about this in the past, where it would do some type of dynamic. It would do the frame rate that it could handle.
Yeah, the dynamic resolution, so the textures will kind of adjust to more crazy areas. In Rocket League, it adjusts to the point where I feel like Rocket League wasn't really necessary for them to do that. But in handheld mode, there just won't be any textures like that. It's everything just goes smooth. I don't think that this is going to be the case for The Witcher. I honestly think it's going to look pretty decent.
All right. You got Dark Souls remastered for me. That game looks pretty good on the Switch, but the sound's all compressed, unfortunately. So, I mean, I enjoy playing on the Switch, but if the Switch can't make that as good a game that came out 10 years ago or closing on 10 years ago, how are they going to do it with the game that came out 4 years ago?
Yeah, I don't know.
I have my doubts. I have my doubts of how it's going to look and how it's going to sound.
Yeah, I think that's definitely kind of a concern. I don't know who's developing this game. I don't know if it's Panic Button. I think that it actually might be a team at CD Projekt Red, and if that's the case, because I think that Dark Souls was actually outsourced. I'm not sure who did that. Because it wasn't really the most optimized port.
No, it really isn't. But I think it is fair. But on PlayStation 4, and we're not just going to compare PlayStation 4 and Xbox One X to the Switch. They're just totally different pieces of hardware. On PS4, as I've been told, Dark Souls Remastered runs at 60 frames per second, and the sound doesn't. And the sound is much clearer.
Yeah.
I just had another thought. The Witcher. That's going to be an interesting game with all those sex scenes on the Switch.
Yeah, I know.
Set itself apart from it than the humble Mario Odyssey and other games like that, which are fairly innocent. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of. This might be the most graphic game to come out for Switch or come out for a Nintendo console. Really, I can't really think of any others that.
I'm sure there's plenty of games that would be rated M today if they had come out today, like games in the 80s and 90s. That,
I'm sure
did wind up on Nintendo consoles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in modern history, this would be something that kind of is definitely. I mean, how many rated M games show up on the Switch?
Not a ton.
Probably not many.
Yeah, not a ton.
Maybe this will open the door for like the GTA's and other games that are rated M to show up on the Switch.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, the fact that CD Projekt Red is bringing this over to Switch, I think it's honestly a really good sign that the Switch is doing very well. And, because obviously they're looking at numbers for Doom and other mature games that have been brought over to the Switch, like LA Noire, which is a Rockstar game. So I think they're looking at the sales data for that, and they're looking at how many Switch units are out there, and I'm sure they're looking at all the attach rates and all that. And considering that the Wii U never really got any of this stuff. I mean, the Wii U was really left out. It had a few of the old ports early on, but it never really got any third-party support. The fact that you're seeing Bethesda, support it fairly regularly with their newest releases, and now CD Projekt Red is putting on one of their games. I mean, if the system has potential to sell it, I mean, they'll try to optimize these games best they can for the Switch and put it on there. And it's also, the Switch is, pretty much known for having an easy architecture to work with, from what I've heard. So, these games, as long as they are willing to put the time in to translate them down and to compress them and make them, run on the Switch, I feel like it's kind of a, it's kind of a good investment. And it's also, it's kind of a different vibe too, because when, the Wii U was getting those ports of games that were, available for a long time on the other systems, there's not really a lot of hype behind it. But now, because the Switch is a portable system, it almost forgives the fact that, these games are older. Because it's like, well, now the whole appeal is you can play this on the go. You can play this wherever you want. So it kind of gives a little bit more life to the games, and people that are so used to playing these games on just, sitting down on their couch or, desk chair playing these games, you can now take this wherever. If you're going on vacation, you can have your Switch there. If you're going to like, a coffee shop or wherever, you can play these games portably for the first time. So I think it kind of just has that, buffer built in where it's like, hey, I mean, this is cool because we've never been able to play it on the toilet. So it's pretty cool. I think it's really neat. So I think it, like you were saying earlier, I think that, this could potentially cause some more third-party games to appear on the Switch, because it's like, okay, well, this game, it has a lot of suggestive things in it, and it's still sold really well. So why wouldn't we want to bring our games over here? I mean, that's sales potential.
Yeah, just another group of people who have spent money on something that you typically didn't plan for, that you can start working towards. Just more money in your pocket, really. If games like these, like The Witcher 3 and Skyrim, etc., do well on it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is good on CD Projekt Red doing their due diligence and basically being like, hey, we have this game pretty much on every other system. Why not explore the market on the Switch? And we might strike gold here. I mean, this might be a huge game. There's a lot of people that are Nintendo-only console owners. This could be their first experience with The Witcher.
Yeah, maybe, I wonder how it breaks up. Do younger people have the Switch, and maybe like later 20s people have Xbox, PlayStation 4? That's probably pretty hard to tell, but
yeah,
maybe these Switch users are, finally growing up and they want to expand their horizons into games that have more mature content. It'll appeal to them too.
Yeah. I think that's that's definitely a possibility for sure. Now we want to kind of almost take a complete 360 here, because this is kind of like the opposite of Witcher 3, and that is Animal Crossing New Horizons. I don't know if you saw anything about that.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I didn't really watch the trailer, but Animal Crossing doesn't interest me that much. But I know a lot of people who have been, we've talked about how people have been waiting for the Final Fantasy VII remake. People have been waiting a long time for a new Animal Crossing too. Animal Crossing fans are fanatics about Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
So I don't really know too many details.
So this one looks different. This one looks different than the typical Animal Crossing formula, because it looks like you start off with nothing. Like in the other games, you started off as like a mayor, or you started off as just a villager kind of moving in. This one though, it looks like you're on a deserted island. You start off with a tent, and you basically have to build your own town. It's kind of like the Field of Dreams or whatever. You build it and then they arrive essentially. So it looks like you're going to have to really build up your island before it starts having villagers on there and before you start having shops on there. So it's kind of takes a little bit of some gameplay mechanics from like the survival type games. So you're going to have to craft things. You're going to have to, build up your garden and plant trees and I guess craft materials to build houses and all that. And I guess, a lot of your supplies come from Tom Nook. So that's kind of how he gets you into, paying off things early on into the game. It looks like it supports up to 8 players, online multiplayer. It looks like they're going to bring back some of the gameplay modes they had in New Leaf. There's so many different titles there. But Animal Crossing New Leaf. So it looks like you're going to have some of those come back, maybe some more game modes. But the fact that you can bring 8 people now into your town, or I guess into your island, is pretty neat. It's just, I don't know, it kind of has like a different look to it. Graphically, it looks amazing. Very clean, typical Nintendo HD-ified games. But it's definitely one that I'm really, really excited for, because I always get excited about Animal Crossing games when they come out. I think just playing them kind of brings back memories of playing it on the DS all those Christmases ago, whenever that was. I can't really remember. But it just looks like they're going to be doing something that kind of shakes up the formula a little bit, and I think it's honestly what it needed. So I think a lot of people are really excited about that. There's a lot of weird fan art on Twitter right now, so I didn't even touch the Animal Crossing tweeting community. I was like, I'm good. But definitely really, really cool though, and I'm definitely excited for that to come out. It also did get delayed, which people are kind of disappointed about. It was scheduled to come out in 2019, probably around the end of 2019. It's being pushed to March of 2020. So it's a little bit disappointing, but it kind of is what it is.
I read a headline that said Nintendo pushed back the release date so they could give the people working on Animal Crossing make sure to support their work-life balance.
Wow.
So, yeah, it always sucks when a game is pushed back. It probably ultimately is better for the game in most cases, but I think we need to remember that a lot of people, look at Sakurai, right, for Smash Brothers. I mean, he's dedicated a lot of his life to these games, and sometimes I think he probably overdoes it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
60, 70, 80 hours a week. It's just work that is an amount of work that isn't healthy just to get a video game out. So I do, being kind of the outside looking in here, I'm glad Nintendo is being supportive of their people that are making this game. So definitely, even if it was a game like Elden Ring or something for me, if I knew that it was being pushed back a couple months, especially for the reason that it's given a break to the people making it, I'd absolutely support it. I can wait longer so these people live healthy lives. Yeah,
I think that's awesome. I didn't know that. I thought it was just kind of due to making the game the best it can be. But I guess in a kind of way
that is,
yeah.
Right. I mean, people are well rested and get to go home and relax and come back at normal schedules as much Nintendo will allow them to, I suppose. It will benefit them. It's like built-in breaks at work. It makes you more focused. It'll make these people probably produce a better game as well as the extra time they have to work on it.
Yeah, I think that is a really good move on their part. Because I feel like, there's been a lot of stories that have come up recently where people have said that their work-life balance has been completely out of whack developing games. And you mentioned Sakurai. I mean, he like injures himself working on Smash Brothers.
It's not healthy. You gotta be able to take some time off, and just not work yourself to death.
Yeah, absolutely. So Animal Crossing is coming out March 2020. Really excited about that. I think most people are that have a Nintendo Switch. And I guess we can talk about No More Heroes 3, which was a game that I really wanted, even though I never really played the first two. But I always thought those were really interesting looking games. It was kind of one of Wii's franchise that I think the first one eventually did go to Xbox 360 and PS3, but No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle stayed on the Wii as an exclusive game, which I thought was a really, awesome move on their part. And I mentioned this in the Super Smash Bros. Characters wish list episode that I did way back. And I basically said that I thought Travis Touchdown made perfect sense for Smash Brothers. And the reason why I said that was because, when all of the third parties pretty much abandoned Nintendo and they didn't want anything to do with the Wii, there was a few third parties that kind of, stood in there and tried to, capture the audience and tried to, utilize that massive user base that the Wii had. They were trying to test and see, what the potential, that was there. And No More Heroes was by Suda51 was one of those games that really stuck in there, along with Red Steel 2, along with The Conduit, all those, really, I guess, like niche third-party games for a Nintendo system at the time. And I always thought that to repay Suda51 for not leaving and for trying their best to make a really quality third-party game, I always thought that it would be awesome if Nintendo included Travis Touchdown, because it's a different situation than Bayonetta. But I think Travis Touchdown would really help it would really kind of add like an extra little flair to the roster of Smash Bros, because he's from a very mature game too. I mean, there's some pretty inappropriate stuff in the No More Heroes games. But they recently released that Travis Strikes Again game, and it was awful. Like, it was terrible. It was a whole bunch of like really crappy mini games, and nobody really, I don't think, really cared for that game. But they said if that game did, decent, they'd consider doing No More Heroes 3. And sure enough, this is one of the games that they showed off. It didn't really show off any gameplay, but of course he has his beam sword again, and he has like his crazy dialogue and all that. Very stylish game. So I'm actually really looking forward to that. I contemplated getting the No More Heroes games on the Wii and trying them out, but I'm not sure if I'll do that or not. But this is a game I think I would definitely be interested in. Do you remember the No More Heroes games at all?
I just really heard about it the first time when the third one was announced at E3. I didn't even know there were 1 and 2. I never realized they existed before.
Okay. Yeah, because I've heard some really great things about them. I think that they really kind of got hurt from the lack of the stronger hardware during the Wii era. So I think now that they kind of have like, they're at least able to go to HD. Now that they can do that, I think it's going to really help the game a lot. So I'm still kind of pulling for him to get into Smash Brothers at some point. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of Smash Brothers, what did you think of the new Smash Brothers characters?
I think Banjo-Kazooie was a fairly obvious choice. That ranks up there. His game on the N64 ranks up there with Super Mario 64 in terms of just solid 3D platformer. So it's actually kind of odd that he wasn't in there already. So the other guys, I don't really know. What are the Hero Quest folks?
It's from Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest, sorry. Yeah, so I don't really... I think that may be more popular in Japan, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I never even heard of these guys. But hey, great, super. I'm still rooting for Solaire to get in there.
Yeah.
Other people want like Gino and Master Chief. more I think about it, how the hell has he not been put in this game yet?
I agree.
He's a gaming icon, probably one of the few that really, really popular characters that have not been invited into that game yet. So Banjo-Kazooie is interesting. Definitely a good choice based on just even that one really solid game of his. I think other iterations, just because Sonic's got a lot of bad games too, yet he was in there for Brawl, absolutely no brainer.
Yeah.
Master Chief should be thrown in there too, but yeah, I mean, pretty safe choices, I think. They don't really surprise me. Obviously, this Dragon Quest thing, I have no idea what that is, but Banjo-Kazooie makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a good announcement. Did you see the trailer for it? How it dressed up the Duck Hunt dog to make it look like?
Yeah, and I think that was similar to when they revealed King K. Rool, where Diddy and Donkey are just like loafing around.
Yeah.
And then they look out the window and it's like King K. Rool, and then they do the the silhouette of Banjo and Kazooie, and it's just Duck Hunt, and then he like gets killed or something, and then Banjo-Kazooie shows up, and I like how the animation between they're all like hanging out, right? Diddy and Donkey and King K. Rool, and they're all like getting happy and stuff when they're out the window, and like King K. Rool's like pressing against Donkey Kong's head. I think it's a nice touch. So I wouldn't mind seeing those guys for other character reveals too. They make things entertaining. So yeah, they did a good job of that. They gave it a lot of presentation.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, the way that they kind of collaborated them in there and utilized them. Very fun. I mean, that was one thing I really liked about the conference. It was very fun. The Banjo-Kazooie inclusion is actually very interesting because this is something that was talked about, even Phil Spencer, because Rareware is owned by Microsoft. That was, Microsoft acquired them basically away from Nintendo, like way back when, and basically quarantined them to making Kinect games. And that was why a lot of their team kind of deteriorated throughout the years. So Nintendo got permission from Microsoft and Rare to include that in Smash Brothers, and apparently Phil Spencer even said, this is like years ago, he'd be completely cool with Banjo being in there. So a lot of people think because this is kind of, I guess, Microsoft's representation in the game, that it's I guess Master Chief isn't really likely to happen now. But I mean, personally, I think
they can't work something out. I mean,
yeah.
How many shooters are there? Metroid and Metroid, Samus and Dark Samus. Who else? Yeah, I mean, they don't need more swords people.
Yeah.
I am a Solaire or someone from Dark Souls in the game.
Yeah.
If you want everyone in there, you gotta wrap it up with the most iconic character who's not in there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that would happen, because I mean that was one of the characters I put in my wish list in the Smash Bros. Wish list podcast that I did. I just think that it would just be ultra cool to have just representatives from everybody in there. I mean, everyone can enjoy it. I don't know. I wish that would be the case. I don't know if they'd be able to get somebody from Sony. I feel like that'd be highly unlikely. I don't even know who they would get, but it would definitely be really awesome if that were the case. So I guess we only have one more game to really talk about, and this is the first time I'm gonna curse really in this podcast. Breath of the fucking Wild 2. Holy shit. This was an announcement that I was not expecting, but it was one that I said that in an alternate universe, I wish that this would occur. This would be the ideal thing to happen. I didn't get my, Animal Crossing Nintendogs crossover that I wanted, but you know what? I got Breath of the Wild 2. Like, holy crap. Like, that to me, and now I'm biased with Nintendo here because, Nintendo, I just feel like they're always most interesting to me whenever I see their announcements. Breath of the Wild 2, though, like, holy shit, I had no idea.
To me, I need to play the first one in preparation for this. I probably still have a couple of years to do it because I don't think they gave us a release date, and it's certainly not in 2020. I'm not sure if you've heard anything different, but yeah, people are losing their minds over this. I think rightfully so, as popular as the first one is. So I definitely have to knock that out to get ready for this new sequel coming up.
Now, the thing with this game, I think they're gonna Majora's Mask it. I think that this game is gonna come out at the end of next year, and I think the reason for that is because they already have all of the things in place. They're gonna utilize the same world. I think they're gonna warp it, so it's gonna be crazy. And from a report on Nintendo on Nintendo Wire, let me pull that up. A report on Nintendo Wire said that this game is actually inspired by the younger developers on the Zelda team that were playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which I think is pretty interesting. And Anuma, who is like the director of the game, he said the game will be a little darker than Majora's Mask.
A little darker than Majora's Mask.
So I think that they pretty much have everything in place, and it seems like this is just going to be like a really dark, twisted style of game. A lot of people are speculating that Zelda is going to be playable, which I guess fans have really wanted that for years, because in the trailer it looks like basically, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I mean, you kind of know what happens at the end of every Zelda game. I mean, Link wins, essentially.
Yeah, right.
It looks like they're underneath the castle. And the castle is in Breath of the Wild, the castle is super elaborate. It's like the coolest area in the game. Like, it's awesome. This looks like it's underground underneath the castle, and it seems like there's like a corpse, and there's like a hand that I guess is either sucking power out of the corpse. And it appears that when it senses Link, it attaches to Link for Link to take the corpse's place, and the corpse like resurrects. So it seems like you might have to play as Zelda to save Link this time around. I don't know if that's really the case because it was such a small snippet. Apparently, if you reverse the music in the trailer, it plays something. It's some kind of chanting or something. And it kind of reveals maybe like a message or a similar or like a familiar tune. But it was a really creepy trailer, and just like combined with the Breath of the Wild art style, it's like I just can't believe that they did this. But it makes all the sense in the world. Like, it almost makes too much sense for them to do this. Like, because they already have like a really well established game, but it's like, I don't know. This completely blew me away.
I guess we just got to prepare ourselves for the greatest game of all time coming up, it sounds like. I am all for darker styled Zeldas. Twilight Princess is my favorite. I think closely followed by Majora's Mask, and then probably Ocarina of Time, I guess, after that. I'm not sure. All those have very, very dark and creepy aspects to them, especially some of the stuff in Ocarina of Time when you go beneath the well and the... I forget what the Shadow World is called. And of course, Majora's Mask, where if you don't beat the game, so to speak, within that 3-day period, everyone dies. It's interesting to see that someone would actually call it darker than Majora's Mask. There's a lot of disturbing stuff in that game.
Yeah.
Even the way it looks, and not just based on the graphic limitations of the N64. It is a creepy looking game with all sorts of creepy music and creepy characters, especially when you get later on in the game, too. So that's interesting. Definitely support. That'd be kind of wild, right, playing as Zelda. But
yeah.
Definitely, I trust that Zelda being one of the greatest franchises of all time. I definitely, and the people behind it, some of the most talented people of all time, definitely trust them to do whatever they want to do with the game. Definitely, it's good to hear that they want to move to a more dark setting and creepy setting. That's just more engaging. It does call back to the earliest of the 3D Zeldas, where just some very odd stuff in there. Hyrule's bloody history, as Ocarina of Time calls it, when you're in the shadow level. I can't remember what it's called. So that's great. I'm I'm looking forward to it. I haven't even played the first one just because I have so much confidence in the people behind this franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. This, honestly, I'm thinking about all the games I've ever been hyped for. This definitely takes the number one spot, bar none. It's the first the first Breath of the Wild game was incredible. Like, it was everything I wanted in a Zelda game, anything I wanted in a video game, and it was, man, it was just freaking amazing. Like, it was the best way to kick off the Switch's life. And it, man, I spent like 30 hours just exploring before ever going into my first dungeon in that game. And just like the countless, trips that I took and walks that I took throughout the story and the game. Like, long after I beat the dungeons, I was still exploring and finding like little hidden shrines and all the awesome sites that you get to climb up to. It was just there's something really special about that game, and the fact that now you're gonna, I guess, go back to that same setting, but now seeing all of the crazy stuff that appears like it's gonna happen. It looks like the castle collapses in the trailer, or it's on the verge of collapsing into the ground. It looks incredible. I honestly I'd never really expected this to happen. But the fact that it has happened just completely blows my mind. I'm incredibly excited about it. It's awesome. But that pretty much wraps up Nintendo's, and what a freaking way to end it for them. Just dropping a bombshell that I don't think anybody really predicted heading in there. So, except for me, but that was that was more of a joke prediction. But I guess all jokes have a little bit of truth to them.
Yeah, little did you know.
Yeah.
More truth than you realized.
So, I guess did any of your E3 predictions come true from last week?
I think the only one that came true for me was the, what I refer to as the Game of Thrones game.
Yeah.
So that did definitely come to fruition. Just with a different name, but definitely still the people behind it. So that's really the only thing. No Super Mario Odyssey. I feel like that'd be way easier to make than another Zelda game, but here we are.
Yeah.
And that's really it. I think I actually may have said Bloodborne 2. I'm not sure if that was last week or the week before.
They all merge after a while.
They do. There was no Simpsons Hit and Run.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but it's not necessarily. Yeah, what was with the whole, Simpsons being at the conference? Did that really pan out to be anything, or did they just live nearby? What the hell?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't close the book on that possibility. It's just kind of odd that has not gotten a remaster yet. But
I'm sure it's going to happen at some point.
It probably will be in between E3s if you ask me, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that will be something eventually.
Yeah, so that's really all predicted. So we did get to see Elden Ring, but that's it.
Okay, I guess the only two that I'm really going to count, because I said Animal Crossing, but everyone knew Animal Crossing was going to be there. So really the only two that I predicted was The Witcher 3 and I'm going to still consider, I'm still going to count my Breath of the Wild 2, I guess, wish list suggestion there. I think that kind of influenced Nintendo a little bit. So I'm going to count that one. Now, what was your favorite announcement?
It was Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Told you as much as I can about it. There's a good chance that I'll still be playing those games on and off even before that comes out. If it's a year and a half from now, 2 years from now. Just like how the sequel to Breath of the Wild is blowing your mind. The combination of these two people who are more or less just masters of their craft coming together and putting something very special together is definitely enticing. So that's definitely my most favorite announcement.
Yeah.
Now, my biggest surprise, what I just trouble believing for a little bit. We commented this before on previous podcasts, is what Pokemon's doing with their Sword and Shield games, the first main series games to show up on a console. is that for right now anyway, Sword and Shield do not have most of the Pokemon coded into the cartridge. You can only transfer Pokemon in and catch Pokemon that are in the Galar regional dex. There is no national Pokédex. A national Pokédex is all the Pokemon. This is horrendously disappointing. I have praised again and again and again Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I will continue to praise it, as it is the game where you do not need a single bit of DLC to essentially control any Pokemon you want as long as you play through the game. It is a work of art. It is what Pokemon is supposed to be. You know, you can say what you want about having to own both versions or all three versions for older generations to get all the Pokemon, but for the Pokemon not even to exist in the game, the large majority of them, is an absolute disgrace, step backwards. Pokemon has not really been... all right, I haven't played Generation 7 or 6. I can only go by what I read. Fact is that Generation 5 is where Pokemon probably was at its best, definitely in terms of story. And just some of the more popular things that they had added moved away, like Mega Evolutions and so forth. I can live with all the gimmicks coming and going, but the best Pokemon experience I ever had was when I downloaded that ROM of Crystal, where you can catch all 251 Pokemon. I want that ability somehow, one way or another. Even though I'm not really a big Pokemon player, I like that I have the ability to complete a game. Why have 700, 800, 900 Pokemon if you can't catch them all? I mean, the slogan of the company is "Gotta catch them all." And now not only is it was a hard task to do anyway. Obviously, with more and more Pokemon, it's harder to do.
Yeah.
But now it's not. They're not even in the game. They are not in the game. They are not part of the game's code. Pokemon that are already in there, Pokemon from previous generations that are in the regional decks will just have animations from earlier generations. Nothing new for Generation 8. Obviously, new Pokemon that are just being created for these games will have. This Dynamaxing thing is just completely, okay, it may be fun, it may not be. It's just boring. It's just a larger version. They didn't have to do any extra design or whatever. They just made a bigger sprite. It's just so bland and empty. And it's just, I talked about this last week. I wasn't super into getting it anyway. I find Pokemon appealing with turn-based action anymore. If there's another Super Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which is like a Super Mystery Dungeon 2, I definitely would get that, just because those games are challenging. And the way it worked was not only when you can pick any one Pokemon you had captured so far, and everyone you had already captured would level up as the Pokemon you're controlling is. It is literally perfection. And now we have this mess. They have a term people have been using is Dexit. Galar is based off of the United Kingdom, England, right? Brexit, the whole thing about the UK leaving the European Union.
Yeah.
The whole thing about this National Dex leaving the Pokemon games, Dexit instead of Brexit. Which I completely understand. I mean, people are pissed off about this, and they should be. It's just, why make a game so... I don't buy into the balancing of the game. I mean, you've created hundreds of these Pokemon in the system for a long, long time. It's people play PvE, and this is why you don't have any Battlefront tier. I mean, the list of complaints goes on and on. The challenge is the Battlefront tier, and they don't have that in there either. Train your favorite Pokemon, strategizing that way.
Yeah.
You have options. Choose any one you want to fight. I mean, you put all this effort over the years to these delightful designs, and most of them aren't even there. It's just unbelievable. That's just it is a surprise, but I know that this has been kind of happening for a while, where these games have just kind of fallen off. So, biggest disappointment, really.
Yeah, I think that is disappointing. I mean, I'm still probably going to get it. I told you that earlier. Just because I want to experience the next generation on the Switch, I got X and Y. It was the first 3DS Pokemon game. I just, I want to see what's there. I want to see, the changes that they've made to the mainline series. I'm hoping that they fix that, through updates, not paid DLC, but just updates. I hope they, give you Pokédex expansions. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd be able to go to all the regions. I mean, I wish that would be, an option, and I wish they would bring back the regions, more of like an open world kind of style. Not so much linear like the previous the games were, where you're kind of just stuck on like a pretty much a set path, and that's where how you go. So I mean, I hope that they do something. They obviously are not going to do the region thing, but I hope they at least expand the Pokédex as the months go by, and have like some kind of expansion there, because I feel like Pokemon, a big part of it is the familiarity you have with, your Pokemon partners.
I think it's a good idea to encourage people to try out the new Pokemon.
Sure.
But, I mean, what is Pokemon without its nostalgia?
I know. Absolutely.
Everyone who plays these games picked up Generation 1 and Generation 2 and they were little kids, and they played based on those experiences since those days. I guess. I mean, I don't have data on that. But that's how I am. The only reason I would ever pick up cartridge is the good experiences I had with Pokemon Gold, and then Pokemon Emerald, and then Pokemon Pearl and Platinum, and so on.
Yeah.
And then fell off when it just didn't do anything for me anymore. What's frustrating about this is that if no one says a word, I don't think Game Freak will do anything to make this game better, including adding the Pokemon through updates, or DLC, which I think in and of itself is another just appalling decision. We'll put some in there and make you pay for the other ones. Outrageous, just completely outrageous. I would. It's going to take, and there is a lot of this right now, pressure from consumers to make this game the way they want it. These Pokemon games should be complete experiences. Or, all right, I can settle for you need 2 cartridges to have a complete experience. Fine.
I would take that at this point, yeah.
Right. We'll meet you halfway there.
Literally.
I already explained to you what my ideal Pokemon game is.
Yeah.
But this is, you gotta give us more. You gotta give us more. It's a video game. Give us it. Give it all. Give it to us all. I mean, I sometimes wish there's, well, all right, that's what I'm thinking. I was going to say I wish there was more Bloodborne, but that's not really relevant here. Video games are a great opportunity to just keep throwing things in there. I don't buy balance. Pokemon is not about balance. It's about collecting your favorite Pokemon you essentially grew up with.
Yeah.
It's not 40-year-old people playing these games, I don't think. And that's okay if you are. They need to be, I think it's really special to see the Pokemon that were, just on those 8-bit cartridges and on the very simplistic Game Boy Advance cartridges, and you show them on screens that they make them look better and better. These Pokemon look better and better for you to battle your friends with, or even just play single player with.
Yeah.
And not give you that opportunity on the first console game for the main series is just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think so too. I mean, part of me thinks that, you're going to have multiple Pokemon games throughout this generation. I think the Switch is going to last a long time. And part of me thinks that these games aren't going to have an expansive deck. But the next game, which I'm assuming is going to be a Diamond and Pearl, I guess a Diamond and Pearl remake, right? That's kind of what's next in line.
It's a long overdue Diamond and Pearl remake, yeah.
I'm assuming that you'll be able to bring these Pokemon to that game because it's on, I guess, the Switch generation and they already have everything ready to go. It's just a shame, though. But oddly enough, though, Diamond and Pearl had an expanded Pokédex because it had to accommodate for those Pokemon coming over. So I'm assuming that that's kind of where this is going to be. I'm not sure if Diamond and Pearl could trade between Soul Silver and Hearth Gold.
Sure they could. Yeah, that was all Generation 4.
So then I'm assuming then that Diamond and Pearl would kind of be when that Pokédex opens if they don't expand it on this, which is kind of crappy. You would think that the most recent Pokemon game would be able to accommodate all the Pokemon.
Yeah, you'd think.
So it's that's kind of a tough situation. You know, I don't care about it like to the extreme, but it is something that bothers me, and it's something where I feel like these games were in development for such a long time, and you already have like existing, you know, codes for these games because you just had the Let's Go games. Why couldn't you bring those Pokemon over to this game? And why couldn't you bring, I don't know. Part of me thinks that the reason why they're doing it this way is so you buy other games to play with those Pokemon. Like, I think what's going to happen is after this game, Diamond and Pearl is going to come out. And then after, you know, actually before that comes out, I think you'll see another Let's Go series, and it's going to be in the Johto region. I think from now on, their remakes, after they get through like all of them, they're going to be released as more like casual versions. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because you want a mainline series game to accommodate all of your Pokemon needs. And like you said, part of the special thing about Pokemon is seeing these older, you know, Pokemon come back and they're in HD, and to not have them in there, I think, is a big missed opportunity on their part. And it makes, you know, the fans obviously very upset.
You know, some are okay with it, but I think video games should be break boundaries. It's a video game. Is there a better creative media than a video game? A cartoon that came to life, right? So, Pokemon, man, I mean, you got to have options when you play it. That's what's so good about it. You have so many choices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of redundancy in Pokemon. Some Pokemon do the same thing as others, but they look different. I mean, you got to have them all available to you one way or another. If it takes multiple generations of bringing them up, yeah, so be it. You have that option. To just cut that out entirely is just inexcusable.
Yeah, I think it's a bit short-sighted, and I don't know. I'm not really sure why they decided. I'm assuming that it is a lot of work to put them in there, but I mean, you have this massively powerful console that is more powerful than any other Nintendo system that's come out.
And you know, I don't know how the monies are split up between Nintendo and Game Freak, but I'm pretty sure this franchise is the most famous, at least, video game franchise ever.
Yeah,
they got to have the time and people to make these games as best as they possibly can be. I just don't buy that anything else.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's almost like they're rushing it out, which is a shame. I feel like it's just going to be, I mean, like I said, I hope that there's, you know, a game update that can solve this, you know, maybe like a day one patch that they can put in there where it'll update your Pokédex and everything becomes, you know, open and you're not blocked off as to what you can get. But I just think, you know, can you imagine completing your entire Pokédex? I mean, that'd be awesome. If you were able to find every single Pokemon that ever existed and you had a Pokédex of it, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, most people will not do that. Even the people complaining, most of them will never be able to complete a Pokédex. Would never want to complete a Pokédex. But it's about your favorite Pokemon. Most people's favorite Pokemon are probably not amongst the new ones.
Probably
they
not.
never play with the new ones. They want their Pokemon that they're used to. Ultimately, play probably with a mix of Pokemon they've had in parties they've played with in the past and the new style. That's probably what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now you won't get that chance. It's really whoever's in the regional decks is what you have to use, and that's it.
Yeah, it's just a shame, honestly. But I mean, hopefully something changes. You know, we have seen backlash cause, you know, changes to happen. You know, that's why it's so important to say stuff. If you're really against something, there's a good chance that there's like-minded people out there that agree. And, you know, if you can put some pressure on them, maybe something can change.
Yeah, you don't want to be rude to the makers. You don't want to harass them. You don't want to threaten them. Nothing like that. After all, these are just video games.
Yeah.
But as consumers, we can demand, I think, politely but firmly, the best products that bring us the most happiness.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a bit naive, but we can do it in a respectful manner too.
Yeah, just give him a little nudge. Just be like, "Come on, Game Freak."
Yeah, a lot of nudge can move a lot of distance.
Yep. Man, I didn't really put a ton of thought into what my biggest surprise was, besides obviously, Zelda being announced. I mean, that, like I said, blew my mind. But because I already talked about that, I guess I'll pick something else. I guess one of my biggest surprises was one of the games that I predicted to go to Switch that didn't. And it's kind of disappointing to me. Persona 5 did not show up on the Switch, which I thought that was almost a guarantee because Joker's in Smash Bros. So that kind of made me a little upset because I don't want to play that game on PlayStation because I feel like games like Persona, turn-based style games, work better on a handheld.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I want to play it on a handheld. Like Persona 4 Golden was great on Vita. Just works. I mean, it's a great combination. You can, you can suspend it into sleep mode and all the other stuff and pick it up. It just, I don't know. I feel like for those kinds of games, it just works better. So I was disappointed about that. And I was really surprised about Microsoft not going heavy into its next generation plans. It kind of just said, Project Scarlet and, all these things that it can do, no more load screens, more fluidity in gameplay, 120 frames per second. But I thought this was going to be the coming out party for the next box, and it wasn't. Like, you would think a year where Sony didn't show up, you would think that, this was their chance to kind of jump out ahead. And, a lot of people are saying, Microsoft's not competing with Sony, they're competing with Google. That's just not true. I mean, they're competing with every console manufacturer that's out there. And and the fact that they didn't use this opportunity to kind of be like, hey, this is our new system. Here's a whole bunch of new games that are going to be coming out for it. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity on their part. But at the same time, it's almost like Sony kind of got in their head a little bit. It's like, why does Microsoft want to reveal all of their secrets when Sony still has time to change the PlayStation 5 around based on what Microsoft does?
That's a really great point. Like you were saying, the hardware, maybe PlayStation can kind of do more than what Microsoft has already revealed, that 120 frames per second.
Yeah.
What's the figure you used earlier? Like 4,000 times more powerful than the Xbox One X?
I think it's like 4.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. But yeah, you're right. PlayStation, knows this now, and maybe they can make adjustments in the next year to make their PlayStation 5 even better based on what Microsoft said. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's like when Xbox One and PlayStation were kind of revealed. PlayStation had a plan A and a plan B. I think this is pretty much well known, and I'm pretty sure this is 100% accurate. Based on what Microsoft's reaction was during their press conference, Sony was going to do the exact opposite. They were going to cross off plan A and go with plan B. Microsoft brought up all that DRM nonsense where, you can't play used games and you can't share games and all that other stuff. Sony was going to do the exact same thing. But because Microsoft was basically their lab rat, Sony came out and was like, they were actually bashing Microsoft. They're just like, oh, that's, ridiculous. Like, why would you be able to do that? This is how we share games, and they would hand each other games and whatnot. And they came out and they smoked Microsoft because they had an example of what not to do. So, if Microsoft went out in there and they didn't get negative backlash, Sony was going to come in there and do the exact same thing. And Microsoft, maybe it was smart on their part to not give away any details, because now at this point, the new Xbox can be fully revealed at any point in time, along with the PlayStation 5. And it might be kind of like a Cold War in a way as to who's going to drop their game first. But it's just really interesting because the whole Wii U failing has kind of put Nintendo in a very different situation where they essentially still have a pretty brand new console out there, but it kind of already went through a normal console's growing pains where it had a great year number 1, kind of a slower year number 2, but its slow year still brings you Smash Bros, which is pretty darn good. I mean, that's a great game to have. So now Nintendo's kind of hitting their stride with the Switch. This is kind of where the Switch now is going to be accumulating games, and they have games for years down the line, like Metroid Prime 4, which was restarted and now is being developed by Retro Studios. So it's a really interesting dynamic because you have two companies that are kind of now in their baby stages with their new consoles. Sony's going to reveal information any day. Microsoft's going to reveal new information any day. And then you just have a console that's pretty much going to be here for the long haul. So it's very interesting. But I was really surprised that Microsoft didn't do more to kind of show off their next gen system. But I mean, that's pretty much all I have for that.
Yeah, what's probably going to happen is, things will get leaked and we'll learn more about it as time goes on. But what's probably going to happen is these consoles get revealed more officially at next year's E3, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and at Press Star Kofi said the Xbox Scarlet literally made no noise. I don't know if it's because of the other announcements surrounding E3, but I see no one talking about it, not even the Xbox guys. PlayStation's simple blog post made much more noise. No shade, just an observation, and I completely agree. People are not talking really about the Project Scarlet. They're talking about Keanu Reeves being on stage. So it's just odd that Microsoft comes out with their next generation console announcement and it's not really making a whole bunch of noise out there.
I don't think I don't think this is going to translate to poor sales for Xbox. They've just got other things to talk about right now. The hype will grow as time goes on. It's still a year and a half out before it's available.
Yeah.
More details will pour out. It's not like Microsoft's going to lose its fan base or consumer base just because of there's just more popular things that are coming up sooner than this.
Yeah, and it also seems that I guess like the Xbox One X and the Xbox One and the Xbox, like the Project Scarlet, are gonna still have cross-platform play. So if one of your new friends gets the Xbox, Scarlet or whatever it ends up being, maybe it'll be the 720, who knows? But if they get that, you can actually still continue to play games with them because they will retain their Xbox library, which I think is really cool. It'll just be seamlessly connecting. So that's awesome. I hope PlayStation does something similar, which I'm sure they will, because that is a feature that Microsoft really, I think, game library retention is a thing on Xbox One, Xbox 360, but now they're going a step further with cross-platform play because part of their reasoning here is they don't want the device you're using to separate you from being able to play with your friends, which I think is a really awesome approach on their part. But I think once people see the box, I think that's when people will get excited. Once they see that, brand new Xbox, what it looks like, the controller.
Right. Yeah.
That's when the hype kind of comes in.
Yeah. You can actually imagine yourself playing it when you have the hardware in your hands, when you have it show up on a table, how big it looks, all that. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, like that was similar like the Switch. When the Switch was revealed, like its code name was revealed. It was just the NX, and I'm pretty sure it was from Iwata at a like investors meeting. So it wasn't even like an elaborate thing. I mean, announcing a code name for your console doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, they did label some of the features. They went over that. But like like we just said, I mean, until you see the box, until you see the controller, and just them showing off the console and the perfect lighting, I mean, that's just that's when the hype kind of grows. So I think that's kind of why it got washed off, just because it wasn't really a bombshell announcement. We knew something was going to be talked about there, but I think that was kind of why it wasn't as big as people are kind of expecting it to be. But Overall, though, I thought that this year's E3 was pretty good. I heard it was a lot smaller than it was in the past. Phil Spencer, the Xbox man, came out and said that he thinks that E3 is better with Sony there, which I thought was a really nice thing for him to say. And I think it's completely true. So hopefully Sony will come back next year with their PlayStation 5. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty much all out of gas here.
I like that the comment he made. He, just with Sony there's more people there, I imagine.
Yeah.
And more people there for Sony. He should at some point have more eyes on his stuff too.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people with more than one console.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I like that he shared that sentiment. It's not just being nice like a Macy's and Gimbals thing from Miracle on 34th Street. There actually is some business sense that too, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I like that you end it with that on a good collaborative note.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys can find this podcast on your favorite podcast service or podcast app. I don't know the correct terminology there. But you can find it on Apple Podcast, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcast, Castbox, Spotify. I'm probably missing one. Stitcher Radio. There you go. You guys can find it there. Leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts because they do go a really long way of helping us get the show noticed. And we definitely appreciate any feedback, even if it's negative, because ultimately that constructive criticism will help Gamepinions grow big and strong, like it ate a bowl of Cheerios. So that's all I got for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed. I thank you so much for listening in, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.